necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors.
Are you a family caregiver? Are you caregiving for someone who can no longer take care of themselves? Are you overwhelmed? This is Caregiver Solutions Info with Marcia Teele. Marcia will be hosting an hour of true stories and information, tips and updates of the latest research and necessary information in the caregiving field, focusing on you, the family caregiver. An Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert, Marcia has 15 years of hands-on experience at Arden Courts, a leader in assisted living dementia communities here in the U.S. Marcia covers everything you need to know as a family caregiver, especially if you care for a loved one with Alzheimer's disease or other related dementia or chronic illness. If you have a friend or relative that is also a family caregiver, call them now. They won't want to miss a minute. And let them know they can watch on caregiversolutions.info. And they can listen on WNN 1470 AM in South Florida or nationally on the iHeartRadio app. Now, sit back, relax, and learn from our host, Marcia Teele, as she brings information to you that may just be the caregiving solution you need.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Caregiver Solutions Info Show. You can see us on caregiversolutions.info, or maybe you're listening to us on the iHeartRadio on your smartphone under the letters WNN. I'm glad that you are joining us today. This week is a special week. If you have seen the news at all this week, you may know that it's National Nurses Week. It actually started May 6th and it goes through May 12th, which is today. And because we're in National Nurses Week, I thought it would be a great idea to highlight a couple nurses on the program today to talk about their jobs, what they do and how they do it. And I thought that would be something very appropriate since we are in the midst still of this pandemic and our nurses work so hard along with the doctors and other healthcare workers to keep us safe. We're going to be talking to a couple workers today. And the reason that the week, May 6th to May 12th, is National Nurses Week is because today is Florence Nightingale's birthday. So the end of Nurses Week ends on Florence Nightingale's birthday, which is very nice. And the American Nurses Association, what they do every year is that they promote and celebrate the nurses in every state across the nation to recognize them and to congratulate them and thank them for all the service that they do in their home, in their community, and we appreciate them so much. So I'm going to bring on two nurses that are joining us via this video call, and they're calling in from their homes on the west coast of Florida. And so we have Jacqueline Taylor. She's a registered nurse, and she is her title. Hi there, Jackie. I can see you down there. Quality Assurance Consultant. And then in the other square, and if you're joining by radio and you're not seeing this, we have, it looks like Foursquare. And at the top, we have another nurse, and her name is Jessica Long, and she is a resident services coordinator for the Arden Courts Memory Care Community in Seminole, Florida. And Jackie Taylor works for HCR Manor Care for the Assisted Living Division in Region 2, which is all of Florida and all of Texas. So welcome, ladies. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having us.
It's so great. Congratulations. It's Nurses Week. I know that you've probably had some special attention this week, but in my book, you deserve special attention every single day for what you do. So I guess I want to start first with Jackie. Can I call you Jackie? You go by Jacqueline.
Absolutely. Jackie's fine.
Okay. So Jackie, your title is Quality Assurance Consultant. In a few words, what does that mean? What is your role? What do you do in a nutshell?
So basically, what I do is ensure that the product or the service that we provide to our residents, to our families, that it's fit for and meets standards, both external and internal. So we're looking at state requirements, local requirements, and also our company policies and procedures. So I'm just looking to make sure that helping with education that we can fall in those lines and be a better us.
And Jackie, how long have you been a nurse?
I've been a nurse probably about 35 years, but that does age me quite a bit.
But it
Definitely.
also makes you very, very experienced, right? We appreciate experience, and certainly it makes you an expert in the field for what we're talking about today for quality assurance. And let me go to Jessica. Jessica, you've been a nurse. You're younger, but you've been a nurse a long time too. How long have you been a nurse?
I've been a nurse right at 13 years.
Well, thank you for what you do. And I know your job as a nurse is quite different than the duties that Jackie has. But in the memory care community, your title is Resident Services Coordinator. What does that mean?
So I oversee the caregivers, the nurses, to make sure that we're doing everything for the residents that we possibly can. So I am ensuring that the residents have what they need. They are getting the top quality care, the communication with the families, but essentially overseeing everybody that's giving the care to those residents.
And you act as a supervisor for other nurses, is that correct?
Yes.
All right. And so, as a supervisor for the nurses, you also have to oversee quality and make sure that your nurses are adhering to these guidelines that Jackie is helping to set up and educate. So, you both have similar roles, but different duties, different titles, and in different ways. But in essence, it's all about quality care. And in this time of the COVID-19, where the families are restricted and cannot visit their loved ones in the assisted livings or in the nursing homes, I thought it would be great to talk about what quality of care means. What exactly is that? What kind of things should we be doing? What are required of the nurses and of the communities or facilities in which our loved ones live? Because I think if the families knew exactly what we were doing behind the scenes, they may have a little bit more sense of comfort knowing all of this is going on to help their loved ones get through this, not just the pandemic, but every single day that their loved ones are in the care. So, again, thank you for doing what you do. So, Jackie, I want to start with you and ask you about this quality assurance. You're the consultant. And you mentioned that the company has certain standards, the state has certain standards, and then there's a lot of things that you have to juggle, a lot of things that you're putting out there. What is I guess, the gold standard across all assisted livings, because I'm sure every assisted living has their own rules and regulations, but how does the government somehow get involved in making sure that the people that we care for are getting quality of care?
Well, definitely that's a key role that they do play with what we do every day. They do have surveyors. We have specific regulations through the state that we have to follow up with. And, they've got surveyors depending on what kind of licensure we actually have, then that's what they utilize as far as coming into our buildings to see. I always tell my staff, be happy when you see a state surveyor. Don't let that scare you because they are definitely coming in. If we're doing something wrong, then let's find out and let's get it right. Our goal is to be ahead of that, and of course, have a deficiency-free survey. Doesn't always happen. It's a big building that some of those little things can happen, but I am really proud to say that the Arden courts, especially in Florida, have a great reputation. And it's nurses such as Jessie that they don't only there to take care of the residents, they care about the regulations also, and are eager to learn those things so that they can make sure that they're following those as we give guidance towards it.
Great. And a lot of these rules and regulations, they follow under the guidelines of the Agency for Healthcare Administration.
Correct. ACA. We know that well
ACA.
as
ACA.
yeah, you'll hear the rumor go up when ACA surveyor walks in the building.
Well, ACA for short, but AHCA, Agency Healthcare Administration, Agency for Healthcare Administration oversees,
Absolutely.
and you mentioned that each state has their own surveyors. So I want to make clear to all of our listeners today that if they're in a different state, we're going to be talking about state regulations for the most part in the state of Florida because that's where we all live. But your state, wherever you may be, could have different regulations. And a lot of them are going to be the same, but every state to state, has different regulations. So you want to just be aware of that. Well, we're going to take a real quick break. And when we come back, we're going to get into that nitty gritty of what the survey entails, what we're doing to make sure that the residents have quality of care. So stay tuned. Be right back in just a moment.
Arden Courts is not just a place to live, it's a place to call home. Residential living combined with quality caregiving. This is the philosophy behind Arden Courts. Communities created exclusively for individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who would benefit from a safe and structured environment. For additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides, call 888-478-2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Courts, we know, we understand, and we can help because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides. You are listening to your host, Marcia Teele, an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert on caregiversolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
We're talking today to a couple wonderful nurses as we're celebrating National Nursing Week. And with me today is Jessica Long. She's the Resident Services Coordinator at the Arden Courts Memory Care Community in Seminole, Florida. And also today we have Jacqueline Taylor. She's a registered nurse and she's a quality assurance consultant. And some people call you a quack, but that's only because the acronym for Quality Assurance Coordinator is quack. So it's not a derogatory term, but I think it's very cute. So when they see the quack coming, they know that they're going to learn something, right, Jackie?
Absolutely.
So
I'm
as
still
a
stuck on my name tag.
oh, is it really? Well, that's
Yes.
very cute. So if anybody hears some quacking today going on, we know where that's coming from. But you are a quality assurance consultant. And we talked a minute ago about the state surveyors coming in to make sure that the community is doing what they're supposed to do. So how often do the state surveyors generally show up?
Well, a lot depends on the type of licensure that you have. If you're under a standard license for assisted living, then you're looking at a regular survey that's going to be about every 2 years. They call it a biennial. They can always come in if there's been a complaint lodged. If you have additional licensure, such as a limited nursing license, and we do have those in the Arden courts, Jesse has a limited nursing license in her building, then that does subject us for a state surveyor to come in more frequently. Usually for that, they'll come in about every 6 months. There's ECC licensure that puts someone in the building every 3 months. Currently, right now, all of the buildings in Florida are going through a infection control survey. We've got surveyors come into the buildings just checking to make sure that we understand the importance of what we should be doing, looking at that, making sure that we're doing it correctly. And so far, they're real happy with us, so that's a good thing.
Well, that is a good thing. So it's nice that they're implementing new procedures as needed now with the virus going on. But you mentioned that you tell your nurses don't kind of freak out when they see state surveyors coming in the door, because that's a good thing. So why would someone worry? Is it like, being graded on a test?
Our nurses work so hard. I see Jesse smile. Our nurses work so hard, and they do. There's a lot to do between the documentation, between the resident care itself, and then to just have someone come in and honestly, they're looking for something. They're looking for any problems there might be. So your work's being picked apart, and it's a good thing because if there's been some changes or if there is something that we're not doing that we could do better, then it's there. And it's just that, concern that what are they going to say? How am I doing? I'm being judged. So it's that kind of a thing. But, you just gotta they're normal people like us. You just have to accept when they come in and make them comfortable, and hopefully that when they leave that you have learned something. Even with all of my years of experience as a nurse, there's not a day that goes by that as a nurse I don't learn something new.
Well, that's a good thing. So
Yes.
their job technically is trying to find something wrong. And I think I've
Right.
been through a couple of these surveys before, on my end, as a marketing director, just to observe. And I know that they'll keep looking and looking and looking till they find something, because some buildings are just so excellent at what they do, but their job is to find something. So even if it's a wrong temperature in a refrigerator, they'll write you up for it. So I know that they're very thorough, and I agree with you that it's great to have this compliance to make sure that we are giving quality of care to the residents. So, Jessica, when the state surveyors walk into the building, and you've been there long enough to probably be through a few of these, what are they asking of you? What do you need to provide to the surveyors when they come in for an audit?
Um, okay, for example, our last one, it was, scheduling, weights. We have an LNS license, so they're asking to see my book that's got all our documentation and assessments for all our residents that are under the limited nursing license. They're going to watch a med pass. They want to watch the nurse to make sure that they're within their time limits, that they're not crushing meds that aren't supposed to be. They're going to make sure we're storing everything properly in the proper places. Again, with the schedules, they want to make sure that we have enough staff every day for our ratios. And luckily with Arden Courts, we staff significantly better than a lot of places. So we don't seem to usually have an issue with that one. They're also not necessarily nursing wise, but they're going to check the dining. They're going to check the food to make sure temperatures are correct, that we're wearing hairnets, following the proper PPE on a regular basis, even before COVID. That we're wearing the hairnets, we're using gloves when needed. That the residents are comfortable, they're safe, they don't have any concerns. They're always going to meet with residents and staff to make sure that they feel comfortable in the environment that they're in. So they kind of take it piece by piece. And I mean, like when they did the infection, they just came and did our infection control. And even with that completely aside from a biannual survey, they also were checking to make sure we had the proper PPE, that we had enough of it, that we didn't need anything extra. And also that we had enough food rations. So if we did run into an issue and we couldn't get supplies, that we have enough.
Wow, they're very thorough. You mentioned that they actually talk to the staff. They talk to the caregivers on the floor that are taking care of the residents. They do that on the side just so they can maybe see if there's anything that they need to know that people could, have a way to communicate something that maybe they didn't like in a way that they could be anonymous, which I think is, again, a really good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We will give them anybody in the building, and they will randomly pick who to talk to, so they can find out. And I believe they typically ask, do you feel like you have what you need? Do you feel comfortable if there's a problem? Do you feel like your residents have what they need? So that way it's completely anonymous. We have no idea who they've talked to, and what those answers are.
So, Jessica, would they also perhaps talk to family members who might happen to be in the building? I know not now because they can't visit, but in prior times on audits, would they talk to family members?
Definitely. I believe the last time they talked to 2 or 3 that were in the building. And we also will give them the option, if there's no families in the building, if they want to call somebody, to give them somebody. But we typically, especially around lunchtime, before we were not able to have visitors, we'd probably have 7 or 8 family members in the building at a time. So there's always somebody for them to talk to.
Wow, that's great. So, from your perspective, you're doing the medical part, but Jackie, what about the employees? Do they get sort of audited? Do they get checked into too from a employee human resources point of view?
Absolutely. They will definitely pull newly hired staff. They'll pull staff that has been in the community for several years. They're looking to make sure that all of our test or our training is up to standards. There's specific training that every caregiver is required to take, depending on what their position is. Food servers is different, care staff is different. So they're looking for that. They're looking for TB testing to make sure that all of our employees have that. The background checks are done. So they're going through that. They're going through maintenance. Mostly as far as the quality assurance, I'm with the clinical team, so we'll stick with clinical. So we're always happy when the state surveyors come in and they leave the clinical part alone and they can go look someplace else.
I know that they do look at a select number of employees on the employee file, like you said, to make sure they've had their training because there's standards that say every so often employees have to be educated on OSHA guidelines. And maybe in our case, because it's memory care we're talking about, they have to be updated on memory care, maybe educated on how to communicate with someone who has memory loss or how to approach someone or how someone might behave. So those are all training certificates that they would look for in an employee file. And if they weren't there, then there's going to be some consequences, I guess. But we're going to talk about what happens when a state surveyor finds something that's not maybe exactly right, maybe there's an I that's not dotted or a T that's not crossed, and then you have to address that. So we're going to take a quick commercial break for our sponsor, and when we come back, we're going to talk about what happens when there's a deficiency. So we'll be right back.
Arden Courts is not just a place to live, it's a place to call home. Residential living combined with quality caregiving. This is the philosophy behind Arden Courts. Communities created exclusively for individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who would benefit from a safe and structured environment. For additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides, call 888-478-2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Courts, we know, we understand, and we can help because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides. You are listening to your host, Marcia Teele, an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert on caregiversolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our national sponsor, Arden Courts Memory Care Communities. Arden Courts is a leader when it comes to memory care, and they have 55 memory care assisted livings all across the United States. And they are a great resource, and as such, they would like to offer you a free book. This is called The 36-Hour Day, and it's written by Dr. Peter Rabins and Nancy Mace, and it's a wonderful resource for family caregivers to learn more about taking care of someone with memory loss. It has chapters in the book explaining situations, definitions, techniques, tips on caregiving, and you can just read it from front to back when you have time, or pick chapters that maybe would help you with whatever situation you may be going through at the time. So this book is absolutely free. All you have to do is email and give us your name and address, and we'll be happy to ship a book to you. The email address is delray@arden-courts.com. Again, email Delray, DELRAY, at arden-courts.com. Tell them that you heard about the free 36-hour day book on the Caregiver Solutions info show, and they'll be happy to mail a book right to you. So do that as soon as possible because it is a fantastic resource. So joining me today, we're two nurses because we're at the end of National Nurses Week, and we have been celebrating nurses all week. We've seen on the news programs, and two wonderful nurses have joined us today to talk about what nurses do and how they do what they do and how they make quality count. So we're talking about being more vigilant on quality, and we have Jackie Taylor. She is a quality assurance consultant for the HCR Manor Care Assisted Living Division. And we also have Jessica Long, who's a resident services coordinator and nurse to the residents in the Seminole, Florida Arden Courts Memory Care. And we're talking about what happens when the state surveyors come and they're looking to make sure that the building, the community, is doing everything that they're supposed to do from a state level, a local level. So we talked about that, and now we come to the deficiency, because we already said that these surveyors, they have to find something wrong, and they're going to keep looking till they do. But occasionally something might slip through the cracks, and they're going to write up what they call a deficiency. So Jackie, what does that mean, and how does a deficiency get handled?
So when the surveyors are getting ready to leave the building, they're going to have an exit interview with us, which means they'll pull us all in together, and the executive director, the RSC, and let us know what their findings are. They're not always a final say. There's lots of times when they found something, they need to take it back and they need to talk to someone about it. But we get a general idea of what their concerns might be. And so it gives us a little bit of preparation time that we know to start working on it right away. And honestly, that's what we do. The minute they walk out the door, we're letting me, if I'm not already in the building because the surveyor's there, they're letting me know, they're letting our regional director of ops, everyone know, they've left, this is what they found, and we make the plans right then of what we're going to do to move, make the changes, put them in place. Um, Sometimes, well, we know we're going to hold on actually doing a plan of correction. That's one of the requirements that will be, because we will get a fax from the state and it will get in detail exactly what the findings were. And once we receive that fax, it's got a date on it. We've got 30 days to submit to them our plan of correction. Because of us already knowing, a lot of times we've already got the correction made. There's times when we've got the correction made before the surveyor walks out the door. And that's noted. But, we do have those 30 days. Depending on what it is, with our plan of correction, we will be providing them with paperwork to support what we've done as far as putting a change in motion. They can accept that as a desk review, or they can determine that they're going to come back in for a revisit. When they come in for the revisit, they'll be looking that everything that we put into that plan of correction that we said we would do would be done. It wouldn't be a good thing for us not to have that in place. And we don't do that. We make sure it is.
So these state surveyors that come in initially to do the survey, do you generally know when they're going to show up?
Oh, no, never. Almost never. It's unannounced. It's a surprise.
So it's a surprise visit. So it's like a pop
Oh,
quiz. The teacher says, we're going to have a pop quiz today. Whether you're ready or not, here we go, right?
right, right. You just never know. You can be, it can be first thing in the morning or it can be in the afternoon. You don't know. It can be, they can be there for a day. It could be a couple of them just in there for a day. It could be a couple of them in there for 2 days. Normally, we don't have anyone longer than 2 days. And if we did, I'd be really not happy.
Right, because your job to make sure everything is a-okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So certainly
So
my job
what
is
are some
to go in.
typical, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So a lot of my job pertains to going in and looking for those things that a surveyor might be looking for. It's much better that the quality assurance consultant goes into the building, does the things like a surveyor would do, and then works with the team, the community, to get those things in place. That way I found it prior to that, and we're all on board with what we need to be doing. And that's the goal of what we do. Everything with quality assurance is to try and eliminate risk, look at safety, make sure we're following all of the regulations that need to be, um, both the regulations and then our policies and procedures for the company. We always like best practices too. So we're asking the teams all the time, can you give us a best practice that you think is working really well? And the state loves that. So it's a team effort between ACA, the state surveyor, the communities, care staff, everyone is in this together.
That's what it's all about. It's a team effort, right?
Right.
So, so could you give me a couple examples? Not that you've personally experienced any of these deficiencies, during your tenure there, but as an example of a minor deficiency, and then maybe an example or two of something that would be considered a major deficiency.
Okay, so a minor deficiency would be something like as a resident moves into the building, they need to have a completed, it's a state form called an 1823. It's the healthcare assessment. It's completed by their medical provider. There's a time frame on it. There's specifics. There's 5 pages. Just not having the resident's name written at the top with the date of birth on each of the pages can get you a minor deficiency. And it has happened. I can say a couple times the surveyors kind of slid it over to us and said, you better check this out. But then I have had times where we've gotten a deficiency just for something minor like that. On that same form, it talks about, you have to list their medications, and it's easier to just attach a list of the medications to it. So you write on that page, see attached list. Well, I'm not going to say I've got it. I'm going to take that back. But not having that page actually stapled. It needs to be attached if it says attached.
So literally attached.
Attached. And that's something Jesse heard me preach. Correct, Jesse?
Yes, ma'am.
So what would be an example of a major deficiency, something that would be, rated pretty bad? Not that you've experienced, again, just
right.
as an example for our listeners to know.
Right. And I can honestly say I've not had that. I see at times, when a community is actually closed down, I get notification from ACA that they've placed a state moratorium on a community, meaning that they cannot accept residents at the time. And sometimes they have to place them elsewhere. And it could be just not enough care. One of the things I heard was that there was no caregiver throughout the night. If there had been a fire, not being able to get the residents out of the building. Things of a serious nature where a resident could actually get hurt, life-threatening. I believe there was some going on as far as with the coronavirus. They weren't being treated. So it would be natures of that the residents are at risk.
Well, congratulations for never having any of those major deficiencies under your watch, right? And under your watch too, Jessica. That's great. That's good. Well, that's what we want. That's your job, right? So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to hear more from these wonderful nurses who are every day in the field helping take care of residents and helping take good care of residents, I might say. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Arden Courts is not just a place to live, it's a place to call home. Residential living combined with quality caregiving. This is the philosophy behind Arden Courts. Communities created exclusively for individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who would benefit from a safe and structured environment. For additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides, call 888-478-2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Courts, we know, we understand, and we can help because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides. You are listening to your host, Marcia Teele, an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert on caregiversolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
I'm with Jackie Taylor and Jessica Long, nurses who are giving their all every day to make things better for residents and in the assisted living, and I'm sure at home too, because it's always nice to have a nurse in the family, right, when somebody's not well. And my daughter-in-law is a nurse anesthetist, and so I'm always so proud of her at the Mayo Clinic. So we're talking about surveys. It's all done. You got a gold star. So if I were a caregiver and a consumer, and maybe I have my loved one already in a place, or maybe I'm thinking about having my loved one move into an assisted living, how can I find out the results of the state survey? Because I would think that would be very important for someone to look at before they made their final decision of where they're going to put their loved one to make sure that they're going to be getting the quality of care that they deserve. So, Jackie, where would someone find that information?
So each community has to have a posting of their surveys. And when you walk in the door, absolutely, you can see the surveys there for the public to see. Also, you can go online to the ACA's state site and you can see any deficiency, any survey that has been done for any community in Florida.
So it's right there when you walk in the door.
You may have to ask the desk, but it's right there as you walk in the lobby area. Yes.
And if it wasn't there, they'd probably consider that a deficiency, right?
Yes,
Yep.
that is true.
Something they probably look for when they first walk in the door, make sure the last survey was there, correct?
They do.
Well, congratulations to both of you for doing what you do. I want to ask Jessica, you've been a nurse for 13 years. Why did you decide to become a nurse?
It's actually kind of a funny story. I originally was going to college for journalism. Because in high school it was pick a major, and the only thing I knew I was good at was writing. So I was going to do journalism, and my grandmother got sick, and I was going to the nursing home every day, and she had some really amazing nurses, and she had some that were not so amazing. And I decided I didn't want to do journalism, and I told my mom, I said, I think I want to be a nurse, and I want to be that kind of nurse, not that kind of nurse. And so I went on my way and started doing it.
So you
that
had an
was, I mean,
inspiration.
yeah.
That's a lovely story. So I'm glad you decided to become the good nurse. I guess it's like the good witch, the bad witch, right? From the Wizard of Oz, and you're the good nurse. And your grandmother sort of inspired you to do that. So now that you've been a nurse for many years, what would you say is the best part of your job, Jessica?
Easily hands down the residents. All ever since I started from the very beginning, all I've done is memory care, assisted living and memory care, and I couldn't imagine doing anything else. I mean, being with those residents every single day is just, there's no better feeling. I mean, being able to go home and know that you made even a small impact in somebody's day.
Very heartfelt, right?
Yeah, love it. Absolutely love it.
So, Jackie, you've been a nurse for 35 years. What's the best part of your job?
The best part is the difference that I know I have made in somebody's life. There's been a few cases, actually quite a few cases, that really it was questionable whether they would succeed in a assisted living community or if they would have to go to a nursing home. And I was able to get them strong enough, get them so that they had better quality of life. And it's those things that have kept me going.
And why did you become a nurse 35 years ago?
For a, not a great reason, but I was a single mother with two teenage boys. I knew I needed something to support me. And I knew that I was a caring person, so I enrolled, got accepted right away, and the next thing I was graduating. Haven't stopped then since then. It's the best thing I've ever done in my life, the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. No regrets whatsoever. There is a field of nursing that if you don't like one, you can go to another. I just happen to, and I've been in several fields. This is a field that I just love. To see that the nurses, make a difference in the residents' lives, to see the caregivers make a difference in these residents' lives, there's nothing like it.
That's wonderful. So you mentioned it's the best job and it's also the hardest job. Jackie, what's the hardest part of your job, would you say?
The hardest is to say goodbye to a resident that's become near and dear.
And what about you, Jesse? What's the hardest part of being a nurse for you?
It's the same. I mean, they, especially in our environment, they really do become part of the family, you know?
Right.
So having to know when it's time to really focus on the quality as opposed to the quantity, knowing that we've got to do what we can to keep them comfortable, even when you really want to just, keep going and keep pushing. But it's like losing a family member every time you lose a resident. It really is.
So you're talking about end of life when someone goes on to hospice care?
Yeah. And I mean, we unfortunately we try very hard to do everything we can to keep a resident with us, and sometimes, they need more skilled environment, they need more care than we can give, and it's hard because you feel like you couldn't give them everything they needed, but unfortunately with this disease it goes a lot of different paths.
That's right. You're talking about dementia and Alzheimer's disease because you never know how it's going to affect each individual person. And some people can stay in their home in assisted living, memory care until they go to heaven, is what I say. And other times, even with hospice, sometimes they're not appropriate. And we've had hospice care guests on the phone, on the radio program, and on this show talking about when it's appropriate, when it's not appropriate. But we, like you say, you always want to try to do the best for the resident. So that being said, Jessica, in your long 13 years of being a nurse, what kind of life lessons have you learned?
Oh, um, empathy is a big one. You really have to be able to give it 150% every day, and the people we take care of deserve that. And you take that in work and in real life. Everybody has a story, and everybody's going through something. So you have to give everybody the much love and appreciation and support you can.
And Jackie, what about you? You've been in the trenches as a nurse in many different fields of nursing. What has it taught you?
That there's different ways to get to the same goal. Everybody is an individual. Um, and, take time and listen because everyone deserves that to be heard. Um, you know, life is life is so special. It can be cut short at any time, and you want to take advantage of every moment you've got, whether it be with your family or at home.
So if there's some nursing students watching this program or listening to us today, we want to let them know what qualities that they should possess in order to be, like Jessie said, one of those great nurses that took care of her grandmother. So off the top of your head, just name 3 different qualities that you think a nurse should possess to be a great nurse. So go ahead, Jessie, and just go for it.
Patience is a big one. Kindness. You've got to be able to give your whole heart to the people you're taking care of. And you really have to care about what you're doing, because especially if you're going into geriatrics, if you're going into memory care type environment, sorry for the dog is now on my lap. You have to they will feel, if you do not genuinely care about what you're doing, they can tell. They're going off your emotions as well. So they have to feel that you're just as devoted as they are.
Well, don't worry about the dog. That's pet therapy, and we like that.
Hi. He did not like me talking.
So, Jackie, what about you? Can you name a few qualities that a nurse should possess in order to become a successful, great nurse?
So the first thing that I would want would be caring, because if without that caring, then this is the heart. We need somebody that really will care and will take that to heart. We can teach all of the other skills that's needed, but we can't teach you to care. Being responsible. It's important that you show up and that you're there to take care of the residents. Um, that's the big thing. Just those 2 major things to me. We can teach you everything else, but we can't teach you that.
You got to have heart.
Definitely.
Well, you two certainly have heart and a lot more. Happy National Nurses Week. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for being on the program today and sharing your heart and your knowledge with us. I really appreciate it.
We appreciate you. Thank you for all you're doing.
Thank you
Special
so
thanks
much.
to
What's that, Jackie?
a special thanks to all of our caregivers too.
That's
Yes,
right.
ma'am.
We love our caregivers too. So we wouldn't be great nurses if we didn't have our great caregivers.
Right.
Well, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your evening and keep doing what you do. Thank you all for joining in today. I hope that you enjoyed the show for National Nurses Week. Don't forget to email for your free 36-hour day book, delray at arden-courts.com. Get your free book. We will be back same time next week, every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on caregiversolutions.info or on the iHeartRadio app under WNN. So check us out. Let everybody know that they can tune in and watch or listen to us. And I hope you all have a wonderful night too. So thank you for joining, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us for this week's Caregiver Solutions with Marcia Teele. Join us next week as Marcia, who has 15 years of Alzheimer's disease and dementia care experience, brings you more needed information to help with the care of your loved one. This show can be seen again on caregiversolutions.info, and questions can be left on the site, which may be used on the program to help others. See you next week for more